Why are you doing this? Please, no, wait.
Alright, she's getting out of the car. She's getting out of the car. Time to go. Time to go. Basically, a few months ago, I attended HorrorCon in August in Sheffield and met the creative team behind a UK independent horror film called Survivors, or Survivors Infection is Coming, based on what website you visit. And I reached out to the crew, the director Adam Spinks, who also directed the independent straight-to-video horror movie Extinction and has also done a web series and such. And we actually got an interview with Adam Spinks, and I sat down with him for about half an hour. It was a very long, awesome interview talking about independent filmmaking, found footage mixed with conventional filming angles and such, and also whether or not his next movie will be zombie pornography. So enjoy the... we did talk about that. Enjoy the interview, the very first Film Brits interview with director Adam Spinks. I'm delighted to be joined by director Adam Spinks, who is an up-and-coming horror movie director who brought us Extinction, the web series All in the Method, and the upcoming micro-budget horror film Survivors. Thank you for being a part of the Film Brits podcast, Adam.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a Film Brits first, so thank you very much for coming on board. It's a first time for me, so hopefully it goes all well. So first things first, if you just tell us what Survivors is all about, what's the premise of Survivors?
Survivors is an infection horror film set as a biomedical company is desperately trying to cover up some illegal activity. They've been testing their viruses on people. And the security, I suppose, hasn't been strong enough around the experiments. So as they try and cover it up, the infection seeps out, and the brown stuff hits the proverbial, yeah.
That's the PG way to put it.
Yeah.
So how did this movie come about? What was the initial spark of imagination that brought Survivors to life?
Well, we actually shot the majority of this film before we shot Extinction. I'd worked with Joanne Gale and David Anderson. We did a short film together called Sunset 904, and we just all had a blast working together, and we loved what we'd managed to do with this post-apocalyptic kind of thing. And we just went out and got a bit drunk, and then my friend said, you should turn that into a feature, and of course, being drunk, I was like, great idea! So we sat and wrote something down, and changed a lot, and then... when I had a draft that I was okay with, I mean, it was long. It was like 180 pages or something. I brought on a writer who I'd worked with called Lawrence Timms, who did a series of Persona with me. And he came in and did a structural rewrite, and we brought it down to I think the final script we shot was 105 minutes of script, which turned into a 97-minute film, and then we chopped it down to 92 minutes, yeah.
So you say that Survivors was started before you started work on Extinction. So what made Extinction become the priority project? What was how did that come about first, and Survivors has become its successor, if you will?
Well, I think we'd shot the majority of Survivors, and we were pretty happy with it, but we knew we needed pickups. There was a few things that we just wanted to change, and a few things because we shot the majority of the film in 11 days in 2013, a long time ago. It feels like forever ago. And and then the opportunity to direct Extinction came up, and so I sort of squeezed it in, and then. Went pretty much sort of straight back to working on Survivors, and we did the pickups last March, and then because we've done everything ourselves, it's just taken so much longer. Extinction was picked up by a sales agent and then was sold by them on our behalf all over the world. With Survivors, we've done everything ourselves, so we've really taken our time to make sure that it's the film we promised people, but also it's the film that artistically had the most to offer. So that's why it's taken longer. I think it's taken longer for all the right reasons. Because you want it to be great, you know. And I don't think as a director you're ever happy with your work. I've never come away and gone, wow, I did amazing today. I've always gone, nah, should have done that better, could have done this, could have done that. We wanted to alleviate as much of that as possible with Survivors, certainly. So that's it's taken us 4 years, I think, from idea to this weekend where we come out on Monday.
So I imagine once this movie gets released and you're done with everything, you won't want to see another zombie again. It's been a 4-year process.
I'm going on holiday. No, I just, yeah, I think we've obviously got some cool stuff planned for the what comes next. I've just done a short. I've experimented with an adult kind of thing, not like porn, obviously. That's not what I meant. That sounded terrible.
Going from a zombie film, what type of porn is this?
No, it's not at all. It's a drama, but it's potentially me being an adult, is what I suppose I'm trying to say. I've moved into quote unquote more acceptable territory.
Because zombies is child's play.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been. It was an interesting experience to go from this into a drama. It's so much. I found drama a lot harder because when you do indie films, you have to shoot them in about 10 minutes. And even with this short, we had to shoot it in 2 days, and it was 12 pages or something like that. So we still had to shoot 6 pages a day. And I was working with some amazing people, but you just have to work so fast, and you don't have time to say, sort of, can we go back and get that? So you rely on your rehearsal period, and obviously casting great actors, and I'm really happy with the film. Yeah.
So you said the shooting period was around 11 days. How long was the rehearsal period then?
Survivors was... We maybe did 3 days of solid rehearsals. Because we tried to do something that people hadn't done before. Because whenever I read an article about like making your micro-budget movie or making your zero-budget masterpiece or whatever they put on the title to make you click it. And I read it and it says, write a film set in one room. Write a film with like one person in it. And I just thought, why? Like,
Isn't that harder?
It's incredibly hard to write, and I think it's incredibly hard to come up with an original idea. But also, two, I can tell a low budget movie when I see it because it's usually one guy wandering around in like his apartment or something
in black and white,
in black and white with French subtitles on it or something. And I just think, you know, I don't want that. So we cast about 50 people. So we tried to give the story an episodic feel. Like we wrote lots of... Because it's like a journey movie. So we tried to write lots of bits and bobs for people to come in and then out of the story in an organic way. Because we wanted to involve as many people as we could. So I think in the original script there was only 50 speaking parts. And in the final film there's probably near 35 or 40. But they meet a lot of people on their journey, and that was important to me because it would feel bigger than it was, you know. Something I think was done brilliantly in Gareth Edwards' Monsters. You know, the film felt so much bigger than it was.
Yeah.
And the reality was it was a few dudes on a boat filming an actress and an actor in a boat. But because of the way he did it and the music he chose and the way it was graded and the effects he used and the way he made the film, it just felt so much bigger. So that was a massive inspiration for us.
Because zombies are very common horror movie elements. They've been around for decades. It seems like everything that you could possibly do has been done with them. So what makes Survivors stand out as a zombie movie?
Well, we were very aware of the territory that exists when you make this kind of film, and to a certain extent I remember when I first went to film school, the first thing our teacher ever said to us is genre is the same, only different. You have to tick boxes or audiences will not watch your film, and that was really eye-opening for me because, you know, and then I started being aware of it. I started watching this film. I didn't like that. Why? Because it didn't do anything I expected. You know, if you went in to see an action movie starring Sylvester Stallone, it was billed as an action, you know, and then you went in and it was like a drama. You'd be like, this is rubbish. You know, it is about how you're expecting it to be. So to a large extent, we just embraced what had been done before and said, how does that relate to our story? People know what they're to expect when they come and see this kind of film. So if we didn't give it to them, then we'd be doing ourselves and the story a disservice because these people won't watch it, they won't be interested. But then how do we do something new? So one of the ways, it happened quite organically. One of the ways is that Survivors is quite an unusual structure. So it goes from found footage to cinematic to found footage to cinematic on 2 different timelines. So, and the idea is one timeline informs the other. because we'd never seen that done before. I mean, it had been done a bit on District 9. You know, I can't pinpoint the moment that stops being a documentary and slips into an action movie, but it does, and it's done brilliantly. But we wanted to keep the structure up for the entire film, and so that was a lot of our writing process, was how does this work? Because they're two very different ways of doing it. But we're sort of really happy with how it's come out. So I think that angle, and also, I don't know about you, I don't find zombies particularly scary, because, well, with the exception of maybe 28 Days Later, because they're just terrifying. And I suppose to a certain extent you could argue that the things in The Descent are zombie-like. They're underground, they're humanoid, but they're not really zombies. But those were terrifying because they were fast and furious and they're animalistic. So we tried to really use our apocalypse as a backdrop for a human drama. Something I was a big fan of, again, with the way that Gareth Edwards did it in Monsters. You know, it wasn't about these monsters, it was about humans and whether we're monsters or not. And I think that's how we've approached it, from a human angle. I think if it happened tomorrow and the world went dark, I think I'd be absolutely terrified of the people that live next door to me more than I'd be terrified of a zombie, because I could just cave its skull in, you know.
Yeah. So
So
you'd board up your door.
I'd board up my door and sit inside it with a shotgun, but
Yeah.
I'd sit inside it waiting for people, not for zombies, because the people, I mean, interestingly, I suppose we're sort of seeing it now in the news, but like, I can't stand the way the reporting's being done about the refugee crisis. I can't stand it, because it's kind of dehumanising everybody. And actually, what it reminds us all, one of the reasons why we made Survivors, is because when you back a human into a corner, when you back an animal into a corner, that is when it's at its most dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's what Survivors is about.
Well, it's like, not to get too off topic, but I think it was in the news today where the camera woman who tripped up that Syrian refugee, she's apparently trying to sue the refugee.
I mean, that's just indicative of the world we live in, isn't it? But
exactly.
Again, I sort of think it's really interesting in how would that situation have been resolved if there was no legal system with an iron bar, I suppose.
Yeah.
and that gets back to exactly how Survivors ends up being, and it really comes back to the fact that as human beings, we do the most awful things to each other. And we just wanted to explore that. How far would somebody go to survive? How many people's bodies will they walk over in order to stay alive and be the last one standing? That's what the theme at the heart of the film is all about.
So, going back to the idea of having found footage and a conventionally filmed movie, your last feature, Extinction, was entirely found footage. It was entirely that approach. So, did it feel weird going back and forth between these two very different filming styles as you were shooting this one movie as opposed to one filming style throughout?
Not really, because we'd always had a clear idea of how it would be, and I think we just treated the two stories as extensions of each other. So there's and I don't want to spoil the movie, but there's sort of a reason why the storytelling style changes. It's motivated within the film, which I hadn't seen done before either, and that was something that I felt really passionately about doing. So no, I didn't find it too strange. It certainly is very different if you've been working with the actors for a couple of days in found footage, where it's kind of okay to look at the camera, and then you go to shoot in a cinematic scene. You sometimes find that your actors or you can start looking down the barrel of the camera by accident, but other than that, we didn't sort of find any challenges. I'm a big fan of handheld work anyway. I think handheld can look beautiful if it's done properly. And so even our cinematic stuff, I don't like tripods very much. So we didn't really stay on tripods too much. We kept the camera fluid and trying to move it as much as possible to really give a sense of walking into the world. I'm a big fan of walking into rooms behind people, or like seeing them come in from the other side of the room and then doing tracking shots with them and stuff.
Once you get the big reveal.
Exactly. And also, I just really like one-ers. So I tend to do, I was shooting, like, there's a scene where the actor David Anderson's walking around what appears to be an abandoned house. And I think we shot 2 long takes and then we chopped them up and made the whole scene out of them. But the takes were 4 or 5 minutes a piece. I mean, we could have used the whole of one, but we needed a faster pace to the scene.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of just allowing the actor and the performance to breathe, and then us working out our cutting around it. I think that's really important.
Yes. I first heard about Survivors at HorrorCon in Sheffield in, I think it was August, I believe.
Yeah.
And what has it been like? Because you've been going to conventions to market this film, letting people know and signing people up to mailing lists and such to give them clips, like drip feed information, which I've been following over the past weeks with glee. So, like, how is that? What motivated you to go with that style of like very personal marketing as opposed to just putting a trailer online and hoping that people would come?
I think such a large part of why this film has turned out the way it has, because on the budget it had no right to be any good, like it has no right to be as good as it's turned out in our opinion, but it is as good as it is because of the people that made it, and I had just the most amazing team, and I had the most amazing set of professionals to work with and to learn with and to really grow together. So it just made sense to me that when we were letting people know about this film, that it needed to be about the people that made it as much as about the film, because this film wouldn't be here without a lot of people sacrificing a lot of things because they read the script and believed in the story. So we wanted to get that message out, and when we got the opportunity to go to HorrorCon and do our trailer reveal, we obviously jumped at the chance because so they told us we could take 7 people. Well, no, they told us at first we could take 4 to do our table, and then literally the entire cast wanted to come. So, and we were like, I can't get all of you in the car, guys. So I think there ended up being 7 of us. My producer, my other producer and editor, myself, and then 4 or 5 cast members. And it was just the best weekend. We just had the best weekend. And HorrorCon was so amazing. We met so many cool people there. And people just like... Because when we first saw the screening schedule, our trailer was like 11 in the morning. And the doors had only been open, an hour or something. So we didn't know how many people were going to come to the trailer thing. I was like, there's going to be like 3 people here, guys. Like, we just need to brace it, work on tomorrow. We're showing it again tomorrow. Let's not get demoralised, right? Well, it was full.
Yeah, you packed that theatre, I remember.
It was, and I couldn't believe it. So we were like, and we didn't... I mean, from the moment we got into the venue, our actors were flyering the whole venue to make sure as many people knew about it as possible. Adrian Annis was just like... He must have given away 10,000 flyers. It was incredible. And the room was just rammed, and I was sort of expecting to go down there at 5 to 11 and just be a bit awkward. And he came running back and said, "You're going to have to go now. Like, the room is full." I was like, "What?" So we ended up, we sort of ran down there and put together this presentation, and people had some really interesting questions to ask us, and that was really cool, and we just really enjoyed chatting to everybody, signed a lot of posters, and it was just a really fun, awesome experience. And then we managed to get even more people in on the Sunday. I couldn't believe it. I don't know where they all came from. I didn't see that many people all weekend. And the best part for all of us, like I was chatting to the cast the other day, it was in the second screening where Jason Voorhees came in cosplay and Michael Myers in cosplay, and they sat in the front row, and it was just hilarious. It was just brilliant. So I never met those guys like the masks on, but whoever they are, they're brilliant people. I love them.
Have you ever noticed how horror fans are always just the nicest group of fans? Like, out of every other genre, it's always the horror fans who seem to be the most passionate and approachable at conventions.
Absolutely. And like, there was on the first day, this was so funny. This lady, I never caught her name because she was in character a lot. But she came around. She was like a zombie nurse. And she came around.
Yes, I remember her.
She was committed. Like, I tell you, she was committed. And like, we tried everything to get her to smile. We were cracking jokes. We were making puns. Nothing. She was so good. Anyway, this nice lady comes up to us about 4 PM, and I know that woman, but I don't know why. And she's chatting away, and then she let slip that she was the nurse, but she'd finally had enough of being in character. She's like, I've been in character for 8 hours, and I'm knackered. And I never caught her name, but I think she bought a poster, so that was really cool. She said she really liked it, but she was in character, so she couldn't buy a poster in character, so she came back at the end of the day to get a poster, which was really cool. Yeah, it was really fun.
If you do another zombie film, you got to get in touch with her.
Absolutely, she's method. She's very method actor. I like it. It was there's just so many cool people, and there were the guys dressed as Ghostbusters. we decided to shout "Who You Going to Call" at them, but they didn't shout Ghostbusters back. So disappointing.
So, do you feel at home in this micro-budget scene? You mentioned Gareth Edwards earlier, and he moved on to a $200 million Godzilla movie.
Yep.
Is that the type of playground that you would like to play in, or are you content just how you are now making these, just obviously very hard-working, but much lower budget, much more inventive films?
Well, I think if you asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have been very idealistic about it. And I think actually, as I get older and as I look at films now, I think I've not been more excited about the young filmmakers that are penetrating Hollywood right now. I was a big fan of what Colin Trevorrow did with Jurassic World. I was a big fan of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla, actually. I thought, considering he was a filmmaker with no chops, essentially, other than monsters, that film felt remarkably like a Gareth Edwards film, when it could have felt remarkably like a film that Gareth Edwards plonked himself in the chair for and they directed it for him. And I liked that. And obviously we've got J.J. Abrams coming through and Rian Johnson and all this stuff. And I think it's interesting to see Hollywood beginning to recruit out of what I would call the young and inventive talent pool. So I think Hollywood's going to have a lot to offer. And I think I did film at uni and we did some post-classical Hollywood stuff. And I think what happened in the 60s is really going to happen again to Hollywood. In the 50s, the budgets went higher and higher and higher. And audiences eventually just stopped watching them. And then all of a sudden we get the really interesting films like Five Easy Pieces and Raging Bull and, it's Easy Rider and all these kind of interesting films by new filmmakers because Hollywood needed to reconnect with its audience. So I think that could very well happen again. As for whether I think it'd have to be the right film, but I think anyone would be lying if they told you that they wouldn't like to give it a go. I think. So people might pretend they don't want to give it a go, but they would definitely do it.
Can't really blame them.
No, absolutely
not. Do you see you said that you were doing a drama next, but do you see yourself returning to horror afterwards, or are you just going to take each film as it comes?
Well, I'm sort of taking a bit of a break. Survivors is coming out. That would be 2 in a year. That would be the last 3 years of my life accounted for. And then I think I've done this short film that we shot in May, and that's finished now, and that's on the festival circuit. So that's on the way, and that's certainly a more personal drama. It's about a family struggling to cope with the onset of dementia in the older family member. So it's very you couldn't be more different to what I've just done, and I think it's important to always try and do something different. Otherwise you'll just be that guy. And I think it's important to continue to reinvent yourself that way. I think if all being well, I think we're going to make one more short film next May, which is actually shaping up to be a drama. If it all goes to plan, it'll be that. And we've just finished a script for, you'll be pleased to hear it, another horror film.
Okay.
Which is a feature. We're looking at casting it now, but provisionally titled Into the Grey. And it is about a mountain rescue team in the Scottish Highlands who get word that 3 hikers are missing in a storm and so are forced to climb the mountain without the aid of the helicopters because they can't fly to bring these people down. It turns out they're not the only ones up there looking for these hikers. It taps into a very real Scottish legend mixed with more than a little bit of artistic license, but I just saw the design for our, I suppose I can say it, creature. And, well, it's fantastic. I'm very, very pleased with it. I've bought on a company called Tankfall Effects, and they've designed the most wonderful creature, which is going to be entirely practical effects. We're doing everything practically where possible. So, yeah, that's going to be really cool. Nice and brutal. It was all sort of inspired. We didn't get into Fright Fest this year with Survivors. And so I decided the next film they would get from me would prompt them to have to go to counselling. So this is going to be quite think The Descent levels of violence, I think.
Oh gosh.
But with some strong female characters. And certainly I think like all good horror, it's not about the violence on screen, it's about something more. And I think we've been able to tap into something really cool with it. And as soon as I've got some more info, I will share it. But we just finished the script, wrote it with a guy called Sam Gridley. It's cool. I'm really chuffed with it. Yeah.
Okay, well, hope that the launch of Survivors goes well. When's that out? On October 26th?
Monday, yeah, we're all bricking it. We're all bricking it here in the office. No, it should be really fun. Yeah, people can get it on Amazon on Monday. Amazon.co.uk for DVD. You can also order it through our website, survivorsmovie.com. And then VOD is being provided by a wonderful company called Distrify in the UK and Europe. Which basically is, if you go to the survivorsmovie.com website, there's a video on demand tab on there, and basically you can watch it and pay for it and download it from our website, which is really cool. You can rent or buy it, or if you run your own website and really, really dig the film, you can take the embed code and you can embed it in your blog, and then people can do the same in your blog. So wherever you embed this video, so people can buy the film without ever. It's really cool. They approached us with the idea of whether we'd want to do it, and we were like, do you know what, that sounds wicked. And I like the idea of the film going viral because it's about a virus. It was kind of fun. So that's what we're doing with that. And then there's a couple other VOD platforms in the offing, and we're having a chat to some distributors in Australia at the moment. And our US distributors just told us that week one sales have gone really well over there. So
brilliant.
Awesome. Really pleased. Yeah, awesome.
And I believe on your website you can also get a DVD and a poster as well.
You can, yeah. So through our website you can actually buy the DVD, which is got loads of bonus features on it. I get really annoyed when like people sort of whack out independent films, and you get like, oh, what's all the bonus features? Oh, a trailer. No one cares. Like
you are preaching to the choir there.
You know, everybody wants to know how you did it. That's the general thing. I always watch. The first thing I watch when I watch a low budget movie that I'm impressed with is, right, how did they do that? And I want to know. So there's a 5 or 6 minute, quite extensive actually, behind the scenes insight kind of thing. Really cool. We've got some deleted scenes on there as well. About 4 or 5 minutes worth of stuff that didn't make the film, but it was still really cool. But it was cut for runtime. And there's also some bloopers on there, which I think they're funny. So hopefully everyone else thinks they're funny as well. But fingers crossed, at least 2 people think they're funny.
Okay, brilliant. And if you're listening to this podcast through YouTube or SoundCloud or on my website, then I'll post all of those links where you can find Survivors or the trailer or buy it or rent it. I'll post all of those in the description below. Adam, thank you so much for coming onto the Film Brits podcast, and I can't wait to check it out. I love some British independent horror. I don't think we get enough of that nowadays, and I really like the look of Survivors, and I look forward to seeing it.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. It's really nice to chat to people and to sort of have to be on the positive end of the review side. It's been really encouraging. You know, we've had 5 or 6 really great reviews come back now, and that's nice because it's an unusual horror film and it's a little bit different to what people might expect. Certainly isn't the blood and guts fest that I think we've all got a little tired of seeing. We thought we'd go for something a bit more intelligent. So we really appreciate the kind words and thank you so much for your support.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on to Film Brits. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
So if you want to check out Survivors, you should be listening to this on the Monday. That's when the podcast goes up, when I will have reviewed Survivors. And if you want to rent it or if you want to buy it, then you can visit their website, www.survivorsmovie.com, to find out how you can rent or download and such. And you know what? I actually dug the film. I literally just finished watching it before we recorded this podcast. I dug it. I thought it was really good for a UK independent horror film. Although I feel bad calling it a horror. It was definitely a drama more than anything. So check that out. I do recommend it, and you can find all that stuff on survivorsmovie.com. So, hello Sam, let's hear your voice for the first time in half an hour.
Hi everyone, how's it going?